Ladies and gentlemen, podcasting since 2005. You're listening to Gamertag Radio. With your hosts, podcaster Hall of Famer Danny Pena, the always opinionated Parris Lilly, and from outside of the norm, Peter Toledo. This is Gamertag Radio.
All right, welcome to another episode here of Gamertag Radio. This is your host, Danny, and joining me this week, we have Parris. Parris, what's up, man?
What is up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. So I believe the new E3 is going to be in July. That's how it looks like.
That's what it's looking like.
All right. Wow. That's my birthday month, so thank you all the companies doing all these press conferences in July.
Oh, we should say the reason why, because as we're recording this today, Ubisoft just announced that their event is July 12th. And we already know Microsoft is doing theirs at some point in July as well. So
yeah,
we'll see.
So I hope we find out soon. Do you think it's going to be the same week or before UB or?
Well, that's what, we're speculating. It's on a Sunday, Ubisoft's at noon Pacific. Does Microsoft do it the same day? Do they kind of give it that E3 press conference feel to it where all this stuff is happening the same day? I don't know. I guess they could. It makes sense that Ubisoft is doing it on the weekend because they want to make sure no one's at work or doing anything or busy. They'll have everyone's attention. So I would guess Xbox is going to do something similar. I'm pretty sure EA's is also on a Sunday in June. So it does look like they're trying to do weekend stuff.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. But we have a special guest on this episode here. We have Tony Polanco. What's up, Tony?
What is going on? Yo, I'm becoming a regular, man. It's kind of dope.
I know, right? I know. So for those that don't know, Tony writes also for PCMag.com, and he's the host of the Throwdown Podcast. Make sure to subscribe. It's a dope podcast. They have all kinds of crazy discussions there, and they get a lot of listeners' questions, which is awesome too, right, Tony?
Yeah, man, it's great. Yeah, Throwdown, throw your questions. Both of those shows go on at 10:30 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. Thursday is Throwdown, and Sunday is Throw On Your Questions. Always a lot of fun doing those shows, man. Like, here's the thing. Sometimes with my normal day job, which is PC Mag, sometimes like, I don't really want to write this stuff, but I got to play this game, whatever. But there's never an instance where I'm like, I don't want to do Throwdown. I'm always looking forward to that, man. Like, it's a passion thing. I love it, man, because I love games, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. So before we start our conversation here, head over to gamertagradio.com. Listen to our past episodes. Also, you can find us on any podcast app. All you have to do, yes, you, the listener, just search for Gamertag Radio. That's it. Just follow us, subscribe, and even post a review. It will help us out. All right? Also, if you'd like to be part of Fan Mail, here's how you can contact us.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
The reason why we have Tony here, there was a discussion on Twitter, and Parris hit me up, and Parris was like, "Hey, Danny, you know what? I think you should hit up Tony, man. I want to talk to him. I want to debate with him." And I hit up Tony. We set it up, and now we're all here. So, Parris, what was the reason you wanted Tony to be on this episode?
Yeah, so this all started because Tech Radar has an article right now, and I'll just read the headline. It says Xbox Series X's. X's is that how you say it? Xbox Series X cross-gen approach is robbing players of the next generation experience. Or no, I'm going to say this correctly because I didn't say it correct. All right, here we go. Xbox Series X's cross-gen approach is robbing players of the next-gen thrill. And then it goes into basically why them doing a cross-gen approach like this is hurting, players that or gamers that want to pick up the new shiny, the new hardware. What's your incentive to go get the new hardware if you can still play all that stuff on your current Xbox One? That's the gist of the article, for all intents and purposes. So I immediately disagreed with that. I disagree with this because Phil Spencer was on GTR 1000 and basically explained their approach and why they're doing this. And also the fact that if you look through the history of gaming, most games don't take advantage of the new hardware at the start of the generation anyways. So for them to basically say what Phil Spencer said was, we're making the player the center of the experience. In other words, I don't care where you play it as long as you play it. Right. So like they came out and said first year of the Series X, there won't be first party Series X exclusive games. So Halo Infinite, as an example, is playable on the Xbox One. It's playable on the PC, etc. Now, once we get into the year 2 games, you're going to start seeing games take more advantage of the Series X hardware, and they're no longer going to be playable on the original Xbox One. I personally think that's fair. I think that's very consumer friendly because it's allowing you to ease into the next generation, because not everyone's going to have $500 to spend at launch, but they want to play Halo and all this stuff. And if, the developers are still able to leverage the old hardware and bring that experience to the old hardware, why are you shutting out, just in Xbox's case, let's just say 60 million gamers who may not necessarily have a Series X, right? So I understand PlayStation's approach. I understand why PlayStation wouldn't do it, but when you see that Xbox is doing Play Anywhere and all that, it makes a lot of sense. And that's pretty much where my argument comes in. And I'll let Tony speak for himself.
Wait, before you say anything, Tony, before you say anything, Parris, there is a chance that even though you have an older console, streaming wise, you might play next gen games too. That's possible too in the future. We don't know yet 100%, but because of Project xCloud, there's an opportunity for those that can't afford that console. They can still play it just streaming wise. Just want to mention that very quick. That's possible in the future. Very quick. All right. So Tony, your thoughts about this and why you disagree with Parris.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the other side of the street with this. I remember tweeting about this a little bit before Parris did, and that headline really struck home with me after seeing the Xbox Inside Xbox thing that they had last week. Like when I first saw it, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. We're getting these games. And then later on that night, right before I did Throwdown, it hit me. I'm like, wow, next gen is really not going to be anything special. Like I thought about the games that we saw, and none of them looked that great graphically compared to what we have now. Right now, I'm going to take it back a little bit. And obviously, you guys are old school like me, so you know what I'm talking about. Right, previous generations, when we went from 8-bit to 16-bit, it was crazy. I was like, we never seen that before. 16-bit to 32-bit, specifically sprites to polygons, another major leap, right? And we just kept getting more and more innovation every generation. But this generation that we're on right now, PS4, Xbox One, we saw just a minor leap, initially. Granted, games look a lot better now than they did at the beginning of the gen, but that was a very gradual thing. The line of delineation between next gen and current gen was blurred because of the fact that we had last gen games and current gen games coming out at the same time. They were the same title, like Black Flag or whatever. It was available on PS3, PS4. And I remember I bought the PS4 and I played it for a good month, didn't touch it again until maybe 4 months later when Watch Dogs came out, because all the games that were available on PS4 were also on PS3. So I'm seeing a repeat of this, and I'm asking myself, and I'm even saying this as a journalist, like, what is the point of me getting a PlayStation 5 if I could just play the same exact games on the PS4? There's not really going to be any graphical difference, right? And that's always been like the main thing, like, when you get a new console. Granted, I will say that at the beginning of any generation, you don't really see the console's true power, but it just seems like we're going to get another repeat of it. So when I read that article, I'm like, yeah, that really hits home, man. Like my overall just disappointment with the way things are just going lately, especially, I'm just going to say, I'm not being hyperbolic about it. This generation that we're in right now, to me, easily I'm not saying the worst, but the least impressive generation out of everything, just because of the way it started. It didn't really get started until 2017. So I'm like, oh man, are we going to get a repeat of this? And then to Parris's point about Play Anywhere, I'm not saying it's not good that players can have a choice of playing wherever they want. That's a good thing, but at the same time, and this isn't really me making a statement, more of me asking a question, is giving players the ability to play a game wherever they want worth sacrificing a true next-gen experience? That's what I don't really have an answer for that right now, but I'm wondering, like, is that worth sacrificing right now? And conversely, will we ever get a quote-unquote next-gen experience ever again? Because it seems to me that graphics technology has plateaued to a certain point where we're going to see bombshell, improvements in, which is going to be gradual things, kind of like Moore's law for video games. So things are just slowing down. So that's where my general disappointment comes in. So Parris, let me know what you think about that.
No, and you make fair points and great points. Don't get me wrong. And you and I were kind of having this conversation on Twitter even before this about as far as temper expectations on expecting this huge graphical leap as we go from the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One era into this next generation, because like you said, Moore's law has kind of slowed down, and it's not so much about this great graphical fidelity that we're getting the next generation. It's more about the performance enhancements we're getting under the hood. That SSD is huge for load times. That is going to be, there's going to be a huge generational leap as far as load times. They're virtually going to disappear on both consoles. Once we do kind of move into the exclusive realm of Series X and PlayStation 5 only games, you're going to see developers be able to take advantage of that. The enhanced CPU, the better GPU, everybody talks teraflops and all that nonsense. And like I said, the memory and all that with SSD, they're going to be able to have bigger levels, right? You're going to see that. You're going to see the size and scope of these games get bigger. And like I said, the load times, just the speed that you're accessing a lot of the assets, you're going to be able to see ultra textures on a game instead of like right now when you play on a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X, you're basically playing games at 4K with medium settings. Think of it, if you think of it in PC terms, right? Yeah. What these next consoles are going to do is allow you to play those same games at ultra to high settings, right? Now throw in ray tracing, which is also going to be a thing in this. So this is going to change the way that the games, as far as the lighting goes in the games, things like that. But ultimately, the actual graphics of the game, you are 100% correct. That's not really changing this generation. I'll take a game like The Last of Us 2. The Last of Us 2 arguably will probably look better, or Ghost of Tsushima as an example, will arguably look as good, if not better, than some of the PlayStation 5 games that come out at launch, when you think of it that way. And the reason why? The developers have been able to squeeze every last ounce of power out of the PlayStation 4 because they know that architecture right now. Now that you're going to the PlayStation 5 and that changes a little bit, and they're not going to be able to take advantage of everything that happens on the PlayStation 5 at launch, which again goes back to the point why I think early on, it's fine to have cross-generational games and let people ease into the next generation because the games ain't going to change any damn ways. So all it really comes down to is if you can afford $500, guess what? You get to go play games at a native 4K at a 60 frames in ultra settings with ray tracing enabled potentially. If not, stick with what you got. It's okay. It's going to be medium settings or whatever. Maybe it's checkerboard rendering to get to 4K, but the games are still going to basically play the same. They may not just load as fast or, like I said, it may not have as pretty of a texture, but still the same game, at least in the first couple of years of development. So I get what you're saying, and I understand that, but I think anyone that expects a leap from the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox to what we got on PS3 and Xbox 360, you're fooling yourself. Yeah. Simply not happening. Yeah, and that's where my bad. That's where my disappointment comes in, or the realization that that's it, man. You ain't getting it anymore. But I do want to jump in there. So I hope you don't mind that I cut you off like that, bro. No, go for it. You kind of proved my point, though. We're not going to see these things until 2 to 3 years in, just like this generation. To me, I feel the generation began officially 2013, November 2013, both consoles. As far as I'm concerned, it didn't really begin until 2017. That's when it really began, right? When we really stopped having all these last-gen games, holding these systems back. So that's where I'm like, okay, so we're not really going to get a next-gen experience until 2023, 2024 specifically. That's kind of sad, right? But at the same time, I do look forward to that specifically. And I said that before, because if we get to a point where
Here's the thing. If you guys have played games out there, you're listening to Gamer Tag Radio, you're all gamers. Even if you've never played a game before, you instinctively know how to go about any game because every game is designed the same way because they have to. When you start going down these empty hallways, you know you're going through a loading screen. If you're going in an elevator, you know that's a loading screen. If you're crawling through a wall, going under a passage, you know that's a loading screen. If we get to a point where they eliminate all that stuff and you get levels designed in a completely different way, that'll be amazing. And I do see that happening. But at the same time, and as you said, we ain't getting there anytime soon. So that's where my general kind of disappointment is. It's disappointment / realization that that 8 to 16-bit kind of jump SD to HD, that ain't happening,
Now, the thing is, Tony, does next gen has to be all about graphics though?
It's not all about graphics, but it is a component and historically has been one thing that, because the thing, you can't show off what's going on in the hood very easily. Graphics are the best way of going, yo, you want to spend $500? This is the reason why. This is why a lot of developers always talk about resolution. No one ever talks about frame rates because it's very difficult to show that off. What I'm saying in like an image or whatever, but like a graphical jump, that's the easiest way to let people know, yo, this is a new generation. Your old system couldn't do this. You need to buy the new stuff. So historic is always something like that. Obviously, gameplay and all that, arguably the most important part of a game, right? That's important too. But graphically, at least for the masses, it's like, okay, this is it. This is the reason you got to get the system. It's always been like that.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. We actually don't know about let's say the first party games for both companies, for Xbox and PlayStation, because we haven't even seen it yet. We haven't heard the announcements. The only thing we know as of right now is just third party announcements, right? Most of the time when companies show, like let's say these first party companies, when they show their games and their consoles, most of the time it looks better than third party, because third parties are working on all different versions, all different platforms, right? But like a game like Xbox, Halo Infinite, let's just say Horizon Zero Dawn, and the next game on PlayStation 5, most likely those games are going to look really good, man. We have no idea. We're probably going to find out sometime this summer. So at least from that point of view, we have to wait until we see the announcements from all these companies. But at the same time, too, Tony, the majority of people always wait maybe year 2 for them to invest money on next gen console. First year, most of the time, people don't do that. Only the hardcore fans.
I was about to say that guys like us, like us.
Yeah, but see, that's why I like the strategy how Xbox is doing. Like, hey, you can still play Halo Infinite on the older version or the new console. And then year 2, like Parris is saying, now you're going to see all these exclusive games that's only going to be available there through Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
So
and that's what I'm waiting for. But at the same time, the fact that we have to wait is kind of disappointing, that's just how it is. But you're right. It's like when we finally get an exclusive game, whether it's from Xbox or PlayStation, that cannot run on the last systems, I think that'll be, at least for me, be like, okay, this is why you justify that purchase. You know what I'm saying? But you're right. Out of third-party developers, you're not really going to be seeing that because they have to make their games playable on a multitude of different systems.
Right, and that's kind of the point. Again, let's just take Cyberpunk as an example. We're so late in the generation. People would say, well, why is CD Projekt Red wasting their time trying to make Cyberpunk playable on Xbox One and PlayStation 4? Just wait and put it on PC, PlayStation 5, and Series X, right? But they know they're limiting their audience doing that because, like you just said, only the hardcore folks are buying this damn thing at launch. Most people are going to wait until 2021, maybe in 2022 to start picking up new hardware, right? So if I'm PlayStation, why would I want to make a game that only 10 to 20 million people could potentially purchase in year 1 when I got over 100 million people out there that could pick up The Last of Us 2 right now? You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that.
Yeah. So from a business standpoint, it's smart to say we want, and I'll just use the Microsoft example. Microsoft is saying, sure, we're making Halo. It's got to be the definitive version of it. It has to save the franchise, that whole thing. let's only put it on Series X and only 10 million people play it in the first 6 months. No, they're saying it's going to be available on the Xbox One and the PC. And now you're opening it up to hundreds of millions of people to have access to that game and to experience that game and to potentially say, I like Halo so much. F it. I'm going to go subscribe to Game Pass or whatever. Or now if it's a PC only guy, but he says, you know what? I think I want to play Halo in my living room too. Now they go pick up a Series X or whatever the hell, down the road. So to me, again, this is what I'm saying. The fact that they're doing this in year one, I understand long term. No, you have to advance and take full advantage of the hardware. But again, from a development standpoint, the games that are currently in development right now that will come out in the first year aren't taking advantage of that anyways. So that's what I'm trying to say. And again, that's why if you go back and listen to what Phil Spencer said, he explained that back in February that this is their strategy. And when you listen to it, I get it from a business standpoint. And even from a player standpoint, you're letting me make the option. I think, and I'm not saying you specifically, but I think, because again, this is why I was like, we got to do this offline because Twitter,
you already know.
The whole thing will get twisted into some ignorant nonsense. So, but I think most people are looking at, well, it has to be on the new hardware. I have to justify my $500 purchase in November. You can't make this on the old hardware. Why am I buying it? Exactly. They're not twisting your arm and telling you gotta buy the goddamn Series X in November. They're saying buy it when you want. The games will be there when you want them to be there. You see what I'm saying? So that's how I kind of look at it. But I understand your point of view and I understand why people are getting upset because it's different than what we've done in the past, except Nintendo. Nintendo's been doing this since, or I shouldn't curse, I guess, right? Sorry, Danny. But
thanks.
Nintendo's been doing this since the Wii. Remember Zelda on the Wii? Remember it was on the GameCube and the Wii.
It was on both of them.
And then they just did it again with the Wii U and the Switch, where they've had their big IP has been a cross-generational title. And I don't remember not near one person complaining, going, man, if Breath of the Wild wouldn't have been on the Wii U, it would have been better because the Wii U held it back. Anybody saying that? Everybody's like, Breath of the Wild was amazing. Right. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. But, by the way, I should add that calling this a debate is kind of a misnomer. It's more of a discussion because I never really disagree with what you're saying. I don't think you disagree with what I'm saying. It's just we have a different take on the whole thing. But yeah, it's basically, and I agree with you. It's like, and I've said this on my podcast, a lot of, our fans, and I'm just going to be honest, a lot of our fans are more PlayStation guys, and they're like, yo, watch. When PS5 drops, bro, we're going to get a AAA exclusive, only playable on PS5. And I'm telling them, no, that ain't happening. They're not going to have their big game or whatever it could be, only available to potentially 5 million people versus 100 million people. So I understand that, but at the same time, that's like, it's that same. It's like, all right, because of the success of both of these systems, they're not going to abandon them. So that means they have to make the games available on all these platforms. Yes, it is great for the consumer, obviously, because you are not left out of the house and stuff. But, just as a tech enthusiast and, somebody who's seen like all these innovations and stuff happening in the game industry, it's just, again, that realization of like, oh, man, yo, we ain't gonna get that crazy leap anymore. That whole, maybe it's just a pipe dream or whatever, but it's like that. Remember when you first saw Gears of War, man, the first time, how crazy that was? I don't think we're gonna get a moment like that again. So that's like kind of disappointing. But I'm like, okay, but it always seems to me like you got to sacrifice some. Okay, so you're sacrificing that to give access to more people, and like goes back to my original question: is that justified? And I'm not really sure if it is or not. I'm not saying it's bad one way or the other, but I'm just not sure about it. And I will admit, it's like, yo, it's kind of a personal thing. Yo, man, this generation was disappointing. Is next generation going to be even more disappointing? I don't know, but you're right. The first year they can't just abandon their successful systems and stuff, but it's going to take a while. And I do implore people to just chill out. Just do what you did this gen.
Yes, that's the main thing. People got to chill out. On this. Now, like you said, this ain't really a debate. We're just having a conversation. Now, I want to pull Danny into something, and you could be the third party to kind of settle this for us.
Wait. Hold on. The same thing we already talked about?
Yeah, what we just talked about.
Okay, I was going to bring one thing
before. Okay.
So the other day, I don't know if you got to see this, Tony, but Jeff Keighley retweeted an article from IGN. I think it was kind of the same conversation that you guys are having right now, but it was talking about the Xbox Inside Xbox digital event that they had for third party. And what was exactly the article, Parris? Do you remember? You were the one that mentioned to me.
It was something along the lines of like, I forgot who made the article, but the article said like, oh, these games showed, the games that were shown proved that next generation is not going to be impressive. And Jeff Keighley said, oh, this tweet will not age well, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So does he probably knows, right, Parris? That's 100%. The whole point of
dude. He's probably already seen Halo. He probably already played it. As far as we know, he's seen everything. It's probably Horizon Zero Dawn 12. He already played it and knows. That's why he's saying that.
By the way, just real quick. Sorry, Danny. Okay, so the article is from IGN, right? The headline is you may need to lower your expectations for next gen graphics. And Jeff Keighley retweeted the article and he said this article will likely not age well. So there you go.
So all these articles that's posting this stuff, maybe they're just, personally, I don't know, just clickbait, or there's nothing really to talk about, I guess. I mean, I don't know, but is this the same conversation from before too, Tony? Same
pretty much. It's very similar to it, but it's all part of the same debate where like people need to lower their expectations for next gen, because there are some people out there in Paris, I know you've seen it, who think that next gen is going to be a mine, F, I'm saying, in terms of graphics. Like, no, it's not, man. Chill out, because we ain't getting that, And that's something I had to say to my audience, like, yo, guys, chill out. We ain't getting Horizon Zero Dawn 2 at launch. Stop thinking that way,
Yep.
Yeah.
You're listening to Gamertag Radio.
To the next topic here, very quick, Tony. So I saw your tweet the other day that you were kind of frustrated with PlayStation, coming from you. You're a hardcore, I know you're a gamer fan, but you're also a fan of PlayStation 2, right? So you were saying you were frustrated because Sony has been quiet for a very long time, right? For the announcement of PS5, and talking to Parris for the past few days, he will bring this up that Sony, even during the last generation, they waited months until we get to see like the console and the games during E3 and maybe after E3 too, and so on. But do you still feel frustrated with Sony?
Yeah, I am. Because I expected them to do pretty much what they did back for the PS4. For you guys who don't know, in 2003, in February of that year, we had the play.
So
2013. Yeah, 2013. My bad. 2003 was free. Yeah. 2013. In February of that year, PlayStation or Sony had the PlayStation 4 reveal. They didn't show the console. They didn't have the price, but they showed games. They let you understand how the hardware worked, right? Between February and June, we got some news, not big news, but we got some news, right? Then E3 came around. They showed the console for the first time, and they revealed the price. Danny, you missed that moment when they revealed the price.
Yes, I was in the bathroom. It wasn't because I was hating. I was in the bathroom.
And then after that, obviously, we got a torrent of different news from PlayStation. And then with PlayStation 5, it's the complete opposite. Like, we haven't really heard anything. And obviously, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's because of what's going on in the world with the coronavirus. Okay, I could give you a little bit of that. But at the same time, looking at Microsoft, this pandemic isn't stopping them. They're putting out news almost every week. They start off showing you the actual console, right, in December. And then they start off the year, right, with, Phil Spencer's interview with GTR, right? And then after that, it's just been nonstop Xbox news, right? And, there's a lot of PlayStation guys that are saying, oh, they like the fact that they're being quiet because when they do say something, it's going to be huge. I'm sorry, I can't subscribe to that, man. Like, when your competitor is out there kicking so much butt, you got to show something, man. And I question whether the new leadership at Sony knows what it's doing. I know that may sound harsh. By the way, my words are actually kind of tempered compared to some of the other things the guys on my show are saying, who are also PlayStation guys, and they're just very, very frustrated with this. So I'm wondering if it's the new leadership that they're unsure what's going on. But I'm like, listen, I understand the pandemic's going on, no E3, but none of this has stopped Microsoft. If anything, Microsoft's ramping things up. So I'm like, Sony, what are you doing? Like, you are the market leader right now, but it seems like you're a follower. This is not a good look. And I think I'm saying this just because of the fact that I'm a fan, but I'm not a fanboy, right? If I was a fanboy, I'd be like, yeah, this is great that Sony's being quiet. They don't have to say nothing. I don't subscribe to any of that stuff. To me, them being quiet like that, it's not a good look. So that's where my frustration comes from. And I remember, it's funny, I tweeted that out, just a couple of tweets. I eventually had to go in. I took Parris's advice. I had to mute the conversation because there was too many of these Sony guys coming down my throat about it. You know, it's like, yo, I just expressed concern as a fan of the freaking company. You know what I'm saying? That's giving me all these games and stuff. But yeah, Sony, I'm hoping that those rumors of the June 4th reveal are true, because we can't just live off a logo and a controller and that dry Mark Cerny presentation. That's not enough, man. We need to see something here.
Yeah. Parris, we're gonna say anything about?
All right. So, and I know you get a kick out of this, Tony. So now, which side of the fence am I on today? Am I on the I only love Xbox, or am I on the I only love PlayStation? So I don't know. I get confused with Twitter sometimes. Oh my God!
I love how you could only be one or the other. You can't be both.
I know it's anyway, so ridiculous. But apologies.
You're a fanboy. You're a fanboy, but I don't know which one. You're a fanboy.
Doesn't follow the flock. The flock follows the shepherd because the shepherd is the leader, right? PlayStation is the leader in this space. They have been, without a shadow of a doubt, since 2013. They put out a freaking logo at CES. They show a screenshot of a controller on social media. Record impressions. Yes, Xbox has been doing a fantastic job of being bold and getting their message out there and doing all this stuff since the Game Awards. I've said it many times. I love the approach that they're doing. But Xbox has to do that. Want to know why? Doesn't matter what Phil Spencer says. PlayStation is still their competition. They're chasing the leader. PlayStation does not have to react to what Xbox does because PlayStation has no reason to react to what they're doing because nothing for them has changed. And again, you go back to 2013, the Wired magazine article replaced the February 2013 event. You basically got the same exact information out of that, right? The Cerny information came out because of COVID. It was meant for GDC. It was not meant for mass public consumption. Other than that, we already knew they weren't going to E3. They had already said they were going to tell their message over multiple events. COVID has obviously messed that strategy up as well. But if you go back in history, we did not see games or the actual hardware price of the PlayStation 4 until June of 2013. We're still in May. So again, they don't need to panic. They don't need to panic and all of a sudden start putting out information early because Microsoft is doing. Remember how shocked all of us were in December when they showed the Series X. Nobody expected to see that hardware until probably right around this time. So Microsoft is doing things that are unprecedented. We get that, and I applaud it. Trust me. But if I'm the leader, if I'm PlayStation, I know the second. All they got to do, Tony, all they got to do is put out a tweet and just say, I'm pretend. June 18th, 2020, with the frickin' logo. People will lose their minds with speculation and excitement. Not, man, it's about freaking time PlayStation did something. Everyone's like, hype train, choo-choo. Everybody's going to be ready to go. Super excited to see what PlayStation has done. And here's something that Microsoft's bold strategy has kind of backfired on them a little bit. They screwed up that event last Thursday. We all agree they did. That was not the right. They overhyped it and people walked away disappointed. You know, the social media impressions, the YouTube likes have all been swaying negative. Aaron Greenberg had to basically come out and say, yep, we screwed it up. We'll learn from it. But what this has also done is PlayStation is just sitting back looking and going, OK, we know not to do that. We know that when we show our games, we're going to show you a real gameplay demo. Look, again, pretend. Horizon Zero Dawn 2. I don't think it's coming at launch, but for pretend, let's just say it's Horizon Zero Dawn 2. That happens. They're going to show you an actual demo of that. They're not going to just give you the sizzle reel in-game engine stuff. So basically, they're going to say the first time you see something from PlayStation, it's going to hit hard, and everyone's going to be excited. The whole thing. I would say the only thing PlayStation has to worry about, and this again goes back to rumor, we don't know how true or false any of this stuff is how much is the PlayStation 5 going to be? Because we know $399 works. We know that works. It has been proven since 2013, $399 works. But when you look at the hardware specs of what the PlayStation 5 is, I cannot see them getting to that price unless they're taking a significant loss. And they're not Microsoft where they can take a significant loss, just looking at how much they're worth versus what Microsoft is worth, right? So that's kind of the only cat and mouse I see them potentially playing with Xbox, because they don't want to overprice the PlayStation 5 and have Microsoft look at it and go, oh, you're $499? Well, guess what? Series X $499, we match you. Done. Right? So there's going to be some cat and mouse there, but ultimately PlayStation's the leader here until they do something. Cause Danny and I have been going back and forth about them with PlayStation Now and all that stuff. But when you're the leader, when you're the overwhelming leader, sure, you have to be mindful of your competition, but their messaging right now for the PlayStation 5, they have zero reason to panic because they know when they start talking about it, people are going to pay attention and people are going to be excited about it. So there you go. That's my rant.
Yeah, I love it, man. But no, my thing is like I don't disagree with anything you just said, but at the same time, if you are the leader, you need to actually kind of prove it sometimes. Like this whole being quiet approach, optically speaking, doesn't look right. And I just a quick correction. Yes, they did show the console and the price at E3, but they did show games at February. Granted, not all those games came out. Whereas deep down, I'm still waiting for that. But they did show some type of games. But to your point, and I'm glad you said this because I didn't think about it too. Sony obviously watched that inside Xbox. They're like, oh, okay. We're not going to do that. Like, yes, technically they did show you gameplay. I'm doing air quotes, by the way, gameplay because there was all in game, but it wasn't actual gameplay. So Sony will learn from that. But yeah, just going back to the whole market leader thing, it's like, I understand that approach, but at the same time, it also kind of reeks to me of complacency. We're like, hey, you know what? We don't need to do nothing. And they don't. You're right. A logo. Think about it like this, right? Microsoft released a freaking console. They showed you everything, right? Released the specs, and people were like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool." Sony, a logo, bam! Everybody explodes. They lose their minds,
exactly.
Right? And obviously, if you're Sony, you're like, we don't need to do nothing. We could just chill. I understand that, but to me, I'm like, okay, that doesn't look good because how long can you keep that up until people are going to get to a point where they segment? I don't disagree with it. When they show games, people are going to lose their minds. I'm complaining over here, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to go nuts, But go ahead. Yeah.
Not to interrupt you, but see, you just said it. That's the point. People can complain all they want, but the second the information drops, everybody going to go crazy. That's the point.
Yeah, no, I understand. But at the same time, but you see what I'm saying, though? It's like, I don't want Sony to become the PS3 era Sony. We're like, whatever. You like our stuff, get another job, buy our system. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see a return to that. I don't want to see Sony be humbled again like they were just because they're like, we're the industry leader. We don't do nothing anyway. Granted, it's true that they don't have to do anything, but just the fact that they're in that position makes it a precarious thing where they could slip up if they're not careful with the messaging, Like I said, if they show something in June and then, keep it going, then great. But I'm just speaking about at this moment in the middle of May, I'm speaking about it that way. Like up to this point, like Sony, yes, the minimal efforts that you've done have garnered you a lot of attention, but there's going to come a point where I think people will eventually tire of it if they don't show anything in June. I told this to Danny, if they don't show something in June, I don't know, man. I really, even for me, I think my patience will start wearing very thin,
Yeah, but it sounds like it's more of like you as a fan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm speaking about myself, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like they're struggling and
no.
Okay. But so you will be excited if they show something in June or in July or even August.
Yeah,
you still be like, all right, I'm getting it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I did say on Throwdown, I'm still on the fence about getting a PlayStation 5 at launch. If I get the same exact games on PS4, I legit don't see the point. I really don't. So I'm still
okay.
I on that aspect, and I'm saying this as a Sony fan, I need to be convinced to buy a PlayStation 5 because of everything I've seen. I don't think it's worth it. I really don't. You know, if I'm going to be able to play the same games, I don't think it's worth it.
Okay. Parris, you were going to say something?
No, but I was just going to say, again, this goes back to the whole point that I'm making. So let's play what if. Danny and I love to play what if. So what if?
What if?
Yeah.
What if?
What if Microsoft hadn't shown the Series X, hadn't been doing these ton of interviews, and they basically stayed quiet until right now? But again, going back with history, if it was a repeat of 2013 and Microsoft wasn't being this aggressive and they just had this reveal just now, they just showed the Series X last week. There's no pandemic. Are you really so concerned about what PlayStation has done up until this point? And I'll let you answer it, but I'm just going to say, in my opinion, I don't think people wouldn't be so antsy about the PlayStation 5 in normal circumstances, because you're seeing what Microsoft is doing and you just assume that PlayStation has to do the same. And again, I will take you back to 2013. I will give my own personal story. When the Xbox One came out with all those crazy always online, the whole digital used game thing, all that crazy stuff, I remember. And when Phil said 500 at the press conference, I remember walking out, not being too excited about it, but thinking, well, if Microsoft's doing it, I guess PlayStation's doing it too. Oh, well, guess this is what it's going to be. And instead, PlayStation reacted and go, wait, they're doing what? Oh, take the camera out. $3.99. Used games. We're good. And the rest is history. So to think just because Microsoft has done all of this, PlayStation has to follow suit, they've shown in the past they're more than willing to do the exact opposite of what the competition is doing. And history, again, has shown it works. Let's put it this way. If you ask the average person, when you think video games, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say PlayStation.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Or Nintendo.
Yeah.
But you see my point. There's brand name recognition with PlayStation. It is almost synonymous at this point with gaming. And look, Xbox fam, I know you're going to get mad at me saying that. I love y'all too. But it's the truth. The numbers say it's the truth, right? This is why Microsoft has done all this stuff that they've been doing since 2016. This is why you have Xbox Play Anywhere. This is why you have Project X Cloud. This is why you have Game Pass. All these services. This is why they've made the quote unquote, most powerful system with the One X. And now they're trying to do it again with the Series X, because they have to convince you, the PlayStation gamer, who outnumbers the Xbox gamer almost 3 to 1, to say, I want to convince you to come to my ecosystem. PlayStation doesn't have to convince you to do anything because you're already there. That's the point that I'm making in it, right? So when you're sitting from there, and I get your point of not being complacency and all worried that they're going to rest on their laurels. I agree. That could be a worry. But so far, we've seen zero evidence that this is the case. Until we see what the PlayStation 5 is, until we see its price and the games that are coming in the first year or two, I personally think it's unfair to think that PlayStation is, they're just sitting back and they're playing it safe. We have no idea what they're doing. And if anything, that should be exciting, because you just don't know. You don't know what PlayStation's doing. Whereas Xbox, open book. Here's what we're doing. Everything. They're letting you know. And I get that gets people excited. But at the same time, when I see God of War 2, when I see Spider-Man 2, when I see Horizon Zero Dawn and Ratchet and Clank comes back and Jack and Daxter and, all this stuff, once they start dropping them bombs, guess what? Guess who's getting a PlayStation 5? Me. And that's the whole point.
I've said that.
They got me already.
No, I've said that. Like, once Sony could pretty much fix all of this, or at least, perceptively fix all this by just releasing some bomb stuff. I watched myself there, Danny. But here's the thing, and I'm glad you said that with regards to what Xbox is doing and then Sony's reaction. Yes, I will admit that Xbox's actions have exacerbated, Sony's lack of movement. But at the end of the day, and I've said this on this same podcast that we're doing right now many times, I'm really comparing Sony's actions to their own actions in the past, right? Because for years I've been saying, yo, when PS5 is coming out, yo, watch them do that show in February, watch them do E3 that same year. They're going to hit us with some stuff in November. I've been saying that for a year. So I'm really, at the end of the day, comparing Sony's current actions to their past ones, and they are decidedly very quiet. Granted, they're in a different position now than they were before. You know, even with PS4, even though PS3 at the end of the life cycle became the best, you know, it outsold Xbox. It wasn't the best selling of that generation. That was the Wii. But now they're in a position where they don't really need to do that. But I would have at least liked to have seen them do what they did before, which is basically February, here's some games, here's a little bit of some spec stuff, a little bit of, you know, dripping some news, you know, between February and June, and then June, bam, we get that blowout, you know. But like I said, if in June we do get that blowout, it'll kind of negate what they've done. But at the same time, yes, the fact that Xbox is out there putting out news all the time does, every single time they do it, I'm like, yo, Sony, where you at, bruh? Where you at? Like, you know, it does exacerbate.
Let me ask you this question. This question. And when it comes to Xbox, yeah, all this stuff has been great. But let me ask you this. What game has Xbox shown so far in this window from December until right now that makes you go, oh man, I can't wait to play that on Xbox? Because I'd argue even the games that they showed, you know, the other day, the ones that I weren't interested in, I go play those on PlayStation. I don't have to get an Xbox to play those.
Or PC.
Yeah.
I didn't say PC. I'm keeping this console, Danny. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, sorry.
But you get my point. You get my point, though. You get my point. Again, as much as I have praised Xbox over the past few months, and as much crap as I've gotten on Twitter for daring to praise the Emerald, they've still not shown me one freaking new game that I should care about on that platform. I assume that changes in July. I assume. But I ain't seen nothing yet. If I go by what I know is coming to Xbox, Halo is the only thing that interests me. And I'm still not actually seeing Halo Infinite. All I know is the last Halo I saw was terrible, right? So Microsoft is still in a prove it to me mode. As much as I pray, I love all the talk. I love the aggression. I love everything they're doing. I love the hardware, everything. But at the end of the day, I care about the games, man.
Yeah.
Show me a game that I can't play on PlayStation that I got to get through the Xbox ecosystem. They haven't shown me that yet. And that's just the truth.
But also on the other side too, Parris, Sony hasn't shown either too.
But guess what, though, Danny? I'm glad you said that because I'm sure that crap was coming on Twitter soon. But guess what PlayStation has shown me? A track record of God of War, Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted, The Last of Us. I know I have IPs that I know when the sequel comes. The last game I loved. So you get that trust factor there that I know the games when they make the sequel to those games, I know I can trust that they're going to be good because the last ones were good. Whereas I would argue the last ones that I got from Xbox, not so much.
Well, it's the same thing with Uncharted, Parris. Uncharted 2 was to me one of the best games from the company, right? From Naughty Dog. But then 3 came out, we were like, meh. So it's the same thing. They have there's games that hasn't been that great
before
too.
was the bomb, and that was the last one.
Four was good.
Not to mention Lost Legacy, right?
Yeah. No, but I'm just giving you an example, like because we don't know. Right now we have no idea. Right now we're just talking about track record and all this stuff, but Sony has been in that situation too. That will blow up and promote a game, and you get the game, and the game is
but you're missing my point, Danny.
No, I do miss your point because I know your point. I mean, I know your point because you're saying they have a great track record. I get it. But sometimes, you can't be too comfortable either, just because of that track record.
But see, again, this is what I'm good. This is Tony. This is
I love it. I love it.
There's a lot of F-bombs offline. But this is the point I'm trying to make. You keep trying to say that they're being comfortable and resting on their laurels. You don't know that. That's the whole point I'm making. Just because they're not on Microsoft's time clock doesn't mean that they're resting on their laurels. They're just looking at Microsoft going, oh, that's cute. Wait till we show our stuff. We do it when we want to do it. That's all they're saying.
Yeah, I want to jump in on that real quick. Is that it is funny, like this whole episode, and even on my own podcast and on Twitter, I've been giving Microsoft praise for the messaging, how they're always out there, the interviews Phil Spencer did with you guys, all that stuff. I'm like, okay, this is great. But then, but if somebody asks me a question, yeah, okay, that's cool, Tony. What are you excited about with Xbox? My answer, even with all that praise, Parris, I'll be like, nothing. You know what I'm saying? And what you said about Sony is so true. And this is why, despite my grievances with Sony, that's why I can't harp on them too much, because I know when they bring that heat, they're bringing it hard just because of the experiences they've given me in the past, right? But at the same time, with that said, I still think it is not unfair of me to question some of the stuff they're doing with regards to messaging. Even though I am sure they're going to give me some heat later on, I still don't think I'm out of bounds or whatever by questioning Sony's current moves. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm coming at it from. And that also kind of goes to show you that even though I do like PlayStation, I will give Microsoft props if I need to. By the way, shout out to Damien. You know who I'm talking about. He has been loving Throwdown lately just because of the fact we're saying all this stuff about Sony. It's hilarious, man. But no, you're right. Like, again, if Sony comes out in June, and you're right, they've seen what Microsoft's doing. They obviously seen what they're doing. Like, all right, let's fix that a little bit. Also, before I forget, I do want to talk about the price, right? As far as we know, it costs $450 to manufacture a PlayStation 5. This is what we've known so far, right? So my question to you is, because I'm not really too familiar with like manufacturing costs and all this other stuff, would it be such a big hit for Sony to knock out $50? I realize there's other costs involved or whatever, but would that be a big hit for them to go, okay, this console costs us $450 per console to manufacture. Let's take $50 hit. Would that be that impactful?
Well, see, and I kind of think that may be the strategy here. Dan and I have talked about this before, whereas that's why the rumors coming out that they're going to limit how many PlayStation 5s they manufacture in 2020, because they're trying to keep the cost down. So instead of making as many PlayStation 5s as you can, you try to limit it so that maybe 6 months, 9 months down the road, when you ramp up production, the actual manufacturing cost to make a PlayStation 5 is cheaper. So you're not taking as big of a loss. I guarantee you these conversations are happening because, like you said, again, all this is rumor. We have no idea if any of this stuff is true. But if you go by the rumor and it costs $450 to make a PlayStation 5, I'm sure they're looking at it going, can we get away at $450 at launch? Or do we need to try to get down to $399? And if we need to get to $399, how big, if we make 10 million PlayStation 5s in 2020, how big of a loss is that going to be for us? And can we make that back up in software sales? These are because that's obviously what Microsoft is doing. That's what Pachter came out and said that he thought, which I don't think is true, but he thought that Series X was going to be $399 because Microsoft can sell it as a loss leader and make it back up in subscriptions and services and stuff like that. So we know these conversations are happening on both sides. It really comes down to who blinks first with that. So I'll throw out my one wacky theory. This is what I think is going to happen.
Is this a what if?
It's a what if.
Oh,
this is my what if.
What if?
I think I'm going to give you two scenarios. PlayStation 5 is $499. Series X will be $499, and there will not be a Lockhart, right? If PlayStation 5 is $450 or less, I still think Series X is $499, and you get Lockhart at $299. I think that's how Microsoft is going to try and fight this whole price thing. They're gonna try and make sure that either they cost exactly the same as a PlayStation 5 or they're going to introduce a second console to undercut it completely and say, here's our low cost option. That's my way.
Here's my question about that, though. Like with regards to Lockhart, let's just say if they're reacting to whatever Sony's doing, would they just be able to just out of, all right, we're going to manufacture the system? Like it would have to be in development either way, wouldn't it? You know what I'm saying?
You would think.
So
yeah, and I agree. And this is why a what if. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I'm questioning your hypothetical because to me it's like, oh, okay, they're $400. Let's make the system. Oh, if they're $500, we don't need to make the system anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like the systems take time, but it's your hypothetical, so we'll leave it at that. When it comes to price, I do believe this. I haven't really thought about it too much, but I do believe that if both, let's just say, if Sony is 500 and Xbox is 500, even though historically that has kind of been the kiss of death for consoles, I think most people will be like, all right, that's just what these consoles cost. And we know that price is not going to be fixed. It'll come down eventually when production and all that, gets easier or whatever. But yeah, but I said this to Danny off the record. I did say it does feel to me, Parris, you said, who blinks first to me? I see like a game of chicken, right? It's like, okay, who's going to swerve first on the prices? That's what it seems like right now. It's like everybody's being very hesitant, but at the same time, to be fair, we didn't get the price of either console last generation until June. So the price talk, while interesting, we should hold off on that specifically, and even people saying, oh, we need to see the consoles, even though Xbox did show the console. I'm still giving Sony, I'm like, all right, they don't need to show the console just yet. Again, just going back to what I was saying, my whole thing has been their messaging hasn't been as on point as Xbox's, but when it comes to price and console, I'm not giving Sony any grievances on that end because they didn't do it until June last time. So I'm not expecting them to do that until this June as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. Do you think that Sony will announce theirs in June? Like guarantee they show the games and the price at the same event? Tony, do you think that's possible?
Well, they did it last time. I'm not saying they are going to do it at June, but they did it last time. They did it last June, so I would hope they do it just to stop all this internet chatter.
So they could easily do this: show the reveal, the console, the games, not saying anything. Wait until Xbox in July, and then send out a press release and say pre-order now. They could easily do that.
Oh, they could, and that goes back to me, what I said about the game of chicken. But that would, oh man, like thinking about it, like, okay, they reveal the console, they reveal the games, but they don't give the price. Yeah,
and they'll say nothing. Don't give the price because they still because companies have done that in the past. So they'll wait until Xbox announces their price. Based on that, then they'll show up. They'll send out a press release, maybe a week, maybe the same day. Who knows? Send out a press release with the price and say pre-orders are live now. Now, here's the thing: from the Xbox side, is it smart to announce Lockhart, even not knowing the price of Sony PlayStation 5 in July?
If it's real, yeah.
Does that make sense? If it's real, that's what I'm saying. But they don't know. Xbox doesn't know the price. So, in my question to you, Parris, what should Xbox do in a situation like that?
So you're saying if Xbox it winds up being the one to announce their price first,
yes,
then they're gonna say Lockhart. If they go first, I think you see a $4.99, $2.99 thing. Because I think at that point they just realized, all right, we need that low cost option. We need to announce it now. We're going to do it from a level of confidence with our pricing and what we're offering you. And they announce Lockhart and they say that's coming too. Go pre-order whichever one you want now.
Okay, so now from that part, now let's go with the what if scenario. After the July event, you already know the price, you already know Lockhart and everything, and Sony would say $450. Pre-orders are live right now. Is that smart?
What do you mean? So you're saying, all right, so Sony has seen what the Xbox pricing is, and then they come out and say $450.
$450.
Yeah. Honestly, that's to be honest with you, I think that's what happens ultimately. I think exactly option B, what you just said, is what happens.
Now, on that part, is this 2013 for Xbox all over again? Just because of that? Forget about
no, because they actually show games.
No, because again, this is where I come back. You know, it's so funny, and I'm glad Tony's on here because Danny knows this. I've been going back watching all the press conferences since 2013, right? Just to kind of get a perspective on what they were thinking. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you go back and watch the Xbox press conference for the games that they showed, just the games, forget the price and Connect and all that nonsense, just the games, you would walk away from that more impressed than what Sony did. Not what the games ultimately became, but for the announcements of saying this stuff was happening. Witcher 3 was there. At the time when you saw Rise, that looked like an interesting game. You saw Sunset Overdrive there. You saw that Project Spark was something they debuted there. They teased Halo 5 there. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the new Forza was there. And then they closed the show with Titanfall, and it looked like something next gen. When you were like, oh my God, Titanfall, wow. You know what I'm saying? It was a wow moment for sure, going back watching that. So it's funny how perspective changed. Microsoft screwed up because of the freaking price and that stupid camera and all the weird always on live nonsense they were doing with the DRM. If you would have stripped that out and they would have just said, here's an Xbox, it's $399, no camera, and here's the launch games. I'm telling you right now, we're having a different conversation.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that? And I'm glad you bring that up as an example, because that same year, that was 2013, right? That was the first time I attended E3. I went to both press conferences, and after the Sony one, everybody was just blown away by the price. That's all people talked about, right? And at the time, I was writing for STFU and Play. Shout out to Torrance Davis. So he had a camera out getting everybody's reactions after the show, right? And me and my homeboy Emilio, who's my co-host on Throwdown, and we were doing Throwdown at the time too, we were sitting back watching everybody get on camera, talk about what they thought about the conference. And everybody said, oh my God, $400. And then Torrance comes to me like, hey, Tony, what'd you think of the press conferences, Xbox and Sony? And I said, yo, objectively speaking, Xbox had a better press conference because they had more games. So Parris, I agree with you. I said this even in 2013, like, okay, even though Sony had that price point and that was the big bombshell, if you look at the entirety of that press conference, it was not 100% games. There was some other services and all this other stuff. Microsoft, knowing that they screwed up with the reveal with TV, sports, and all that, they kept it strictly to games. So even back then, I was like, yo, Microsoft had a better showing. And as a matter of fact, I'll even go so far as to say, for this generation, Microsoft's E3 press conferences have been objectively better than Sony's with regards to games. They show way more games than Sony does at their press conferences, you know? So it's kind of funny how people seem to forget that. And as a matter of fact, you know, the mind plays tricks on people. Everybody goes, oh, that E3 reveal is horrible. All they talked about was TV and sports. No, that was the freaking reveal in May. That wasn't E3. At E3, they brought the heat, you know? So it's just kind of funny how people kind of forget that. And I'm glad you're watching all that stuff just to get a different perspective on it. But I remember that very well. I got on camera. I'm like, yo, Xbox had a better showing, son. The price is dope. Don't get me wrong. But, yo, those games were legit.
Yep. Because, and I forgot, they kicked off the show with Metal Gear 5.
Yes. Dude,
Kojima stood on an Xbox stage to kick off next gen, not a PlayStation one. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's what I mean. When you look at it in that bubble, things could have been a lot different for sure. But, you know, hey, that's just revisionist history. But it just goes to show you how thin of a line it could be, which, to bring all this full circle, I understand what both of you are saying about it's great that PlayStation is the leader right now, but that could change in a heartbeat if they're not careful.
Yes.
That I 100% agree with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I'm coming at it from. It's like, again, as a fan of PlayStation, I just don't want them see them fall like they did before, you know, because of the complacency. But like you said, anything could happen. Everything I'm saying right now could be very different in 2 weeks, you know? It could be completely different, you know. So hopefully, you know, you guys will have me back and we could talk about that. But you know, everything could change in a heartbeat. And even Microsoft, as great as they're now, they could mess up. So you never know what will happen. You know, and then of course we got Nintendo throwing in a monkey wrench every once in a while too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this summer.
Here's the thing: both companies they made a lot of mistakes. I remember Xbox. Everybody was talking about the 360. Xbox got comfortable. Show Xbox One, the rest is history. Same thing with PlayStation, took over because of PlayStation 2. And when they announced PlayStation 3, like you said, Tony, get 2 jobs and you could afford this console, and they got cocky. It could happen with both. Either one, it could happen. Or it could be in this situation, Tony. Maybe both companies do a great, amazing job on showing the games, announcing the price that everybody's happy. And people are going to complain, of course, because that's always going to happen. But I think the majority of people might be happy too. So it's a win-win, man, no matter what. That's possible too, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody being happy, that's not really, you know how it is on the internet. But I see what you're saying. It's like both of them could come out the gate and do something that pleases, let's just say that pleases their respective fan bases, you know, and maybe get some other people go, hey, you know, I wasn't thinking about getting an Xbox, but that looks kind of dope. I may check that out. You know, that could happen as well, you know?
Yeah. Anything else, Parris? I think this was a great conversation.
No, this is obviously we want to be in a great conversation. No, I mean, I think that's about it. We're all antsy because we want more information on all that stuff, and it looks like June is when we're really going to start to see more real information come from these companies. Hopefully PlayStation says something in June. And then obviously in July, now we know we're getting all the Ubisoft stuff and we're getting all the main stuff from Xbox. And it's going to be fascinating to see the pricing on this thing. Like, I'm fascinated about two things: how much both of these consoles are going to cost and the launch lineup for the PlayStation. Those are the two things that fascinate me more than anything, because I'm just dying to know.
So you're not curious about Xbox launch lineup, or you're just curious about the price of
Halo? It's Halo. So you already got me. I'm getting Halo. I mean, I already know. And I guess that's my point. At least we know we're getting Halo for Xbox. We don't know anything for PlayStation. I mean, like Tony alluded to before, Horizon Zero Dawn doesn't seem likely at launch, but the timing kind of works out that it could be at launch, which if it was, that's huge. That is huge. But we just don't know. We just simply do not know. So if Horizon, before we go, because I'm curious of Tony's opinion on this then, since we're talking about that. So again, pretend there is no Horizon Zero Dawn 2 at launch. I think we get something from Sony Japan, a knack type game, family friendly game. Maybe Insomniac has been working on Ratchet and Clank. I could very well see something like that at launch. But dude, clueless. Beyond that, clueless. I have no idea to even speculate on what else there could be. So what do you think?
Yeah, this is something, again, a lot of our fans were saying, like, oh, Sony's going to drop a big surprise. The thing is, in this day and age, it is very hard for things not to leak. Look at The Last of Us, that whole fiasco, right? So if something on the level of a Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is coming, we would have heard about it already, either through a leak or through something official, because they wouldn't want to downplay something of that magnitude, right? So this is why I still believe we will not get any major first-party AAA exclusives on PlayStation 5 this fall. However, I think we will get some exclusives in the form of some indie games. Studio Japan specifically, I guarantee you they're going to drop something that's only playable on PlayStation 5, something like a Resogun or something along those lines. But the big games, and this goes back to the user base, right? Something like a Ghost of Tsushima, they want it on both systems because of the player base. They want The Last of Us on both player bases. So I'm not, even Ratchet and Clank, I would love that, but even that I don't see just coming out. Okay, it's just exclusive to PlayStation 5. You're going to get those kind of games later, but for this fall, no, I really don't see it. And I don't think I'm being pessimistic about it. I think that's just realistic. Just knowing how the industry works, knowing how hard it is to keep a secret, knowing that companies love to get out there and promote their stuff. But with that said, and I just thought about this now, it would be dope if they pull a Bethesda with Fallout 4. Remember what happened with that? Literally, they come out to E3, it's like, yo, by the way, Fallout 4, we got it in development. It's coming in November. That would be amazing if they did that. But Sony, let's just be real. They have a very bad track record when it comes to keeping secrets. So that's why I don't see that happening. But I would love to see that just to justify the system. Like, okay, I can't play this on PS4. I need to get a PS5. That'd be amazing. But I don't really see that happening. I think the big stuff is going to be available on your PlayStation 4 as well.
Well, I hope this one is the best launch lineup for PlayStation, because they had in the past a pretty bad track record when it comes to launch titles.
Every single generation of PlayStation has never had a good launch lineup. Never.
But if they announce Horizon Zero Dawn for launch, I think that will be a mic drop for Sony, man. I think, but
huge.
But
yeah, it'd be insane.
And this is a huge but. It's not a Halo. It's not a Halo. It's not. It will.
I'd argue it's bigger than Halo right now.
I agree with Parris on this one. Let's just be real here, and I'm not crapping on Halo here. I'm not crapping on Halo, but you guys admit Halo is not the juggernaut it used to be. It has fallen out of favor. Halo 5 did not do many favors. I'm not saying anything bad about Halo 5. I understand a lot of people liked it, but look at the sales compared to other Halo games. We are not in the era of Halo 3 anymore. Those days are gone, So yes, obviously Halo will be a big game for Xbox, but I don't think it's going to be like a big game changer like previous games have been for the entire industry.
And
I would argue that Aloy is the biggest new heroine hero of this generation, new IP of this. I know I'm sounding like gibberish, but my point is this: of all the new IPs that came this generation, I could argue Horizon Zero Dawn was the most important new IP, and that as a character that you can play as and be, Aloy is the most important one we've had this generation. She's bigger than Master Chief right now, in my opinion. She's more recognizable right now. No, I'll take that back. Master Chief Halo obviously is 20 years, but
Vision 696, hit him up.
Yeah, people get mad at me regardless. But you're going to get more excited to see her pop up on the screen right now than you would Master Chief, because I will still argue Halo 5 potentially has done huge damage to the Halo franchise, to that IP, to where you're like, all right, I hope we just don't do the stupid lock thing again. That's what people are saying right now. That story was that bad in Halo 5. Look, the multiplayer and all that, if they nail it for Infinite, will be obviously way bigger than what Horizon Zero Dawn could do. That the most Horizon Zero Dawn might have some co-op thing rumored, right? But I would say as a single player experience that you're going to play, if you put a gun in my head and made me choose right now, I have more confidence that Horizon Zero Dawn's 2 story is going to be better than Halo Infinite. That's just the God honest truth. And I'm excited for both. Don't get me wrong. But this goes back to what I was saying. 343 and Xbox as a whole, Microsoft Game Studios, they're in prove-it mode. Whereas with what Guerrilla Games has done and what PlayStation as a whole has done, I trust them a lot more.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. It's like with Halo, it's like, all right, here we go, another Halo. People rolling their eyes, they don't really care. But when it comes to Horizon Zero Dawn 2, it's like my favorite is the Birdman. If he's rubbing his hands, people are like that, you know, like, oh yeah, let's go. Yep. And again, I don't see it happening just because of the way the industry works. But if they drop a Horizon Zero Dawn 2 for PlayStation 5 at launch, bro, are you kidding me?
Huge.
Oh my god.
You know what?
Huge.
I have a feeling that game is gonna be spring of 2021. I just can't see it, man. I can't see it.
Look, I look at it this way. PlayStation has 3 IPs right now that the second they show a teaser from it, anything, people are going to lose their minds. First one is Horizon Zero Dawn 2. The other one's going to be God of War. And the one that trumps all of them, I'm telling you right now, the biggest teaser any game company could show right now is Spider-Man F and 2. When they show that, the internet explodes. It's going to break.
But if they do show it, that thing comes out like in 3-4 years.
It doesn't matter, Danny. It does not matter.
Tony, if I'm right.
I'm trying to make
no, you're right. That's how Sony is, bro. Remember in 2000.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's my point. They could show it now and it doesn't come out to 2023. People are still. I'm talking excitement factor. I ain't talking about you can play it.
I know. But if Xbox would do something like that with one of their IPs, are you going to be saying the same thing too?
They're about to do it come this July. If you think they're not, you're crazy.
Well, I think they're doing it because Sony did it. I was gonna say Tony.
No,
but like Sony did it, so they're like, hey, let's do it too. F it. Let's start create a buzz.
No, they okay. You know what the difference right now is, Dan? Man, Xbox people about to be mad at me. The difference is, PlayStation doesn't have to do it. Xbox does.
That's a good point.
That's the point. Yeah. They gotta show a roadmap that says, here are the banging IPs and returning IPs that you can expect over the next 2 to 3 years. Because they gotta prove that it is worth investing into their ecosystem, subscribing to Game Pass, picking up an Xbox Series X, S12, whatever the hell they're gonna call them, right? They gotta prove it. All Sony got to do is show the logo, show Peter Parker, show Aloy, and walk off the stage. That's all they got to do.
Yeah.
And people will lose their minds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And no, I agree with that. But again, Sony shouldn't rest on that. That's all my whole point is.
And I agree. They should not. But I'm just saying, as it stands right now, they have the IP and the brand recognition that Xbox is trying to get. They're trying to recapture. Because look, let's be real. Coming into this current generation, Xbox was the big dog. Not PlayStation. Yeah. I way more anticipated the Xbox One than I did the PlayStation 4. But all it took was one bad messaging of a press conference, a bad price, DRM, and the tables flipped. It was that simple. It was again. I go back to that again, and we got the recordings or whatever. It is amazing to hear us walk out of that Xbox media briefing in 2013. There was no excitement. There was, well, all right, this is what we're gonna do. All right, I guess I'm pre-ordered it.
I remember, yeah.
And then 5 hours later, walking out of that PlayStation press conference. Oh my God! Everybody going crazy.
I'll never forget this. Parris looked at me, and he goes, "Hey, Danny, look." Canceled the pre-order of Xbox One.
Oh
my God, I remember.
Yeah.
He looked at me and said, "Well, see,
yeah, because at that point, dude, it was a wrap. Look, and and shout out to Hip Hop Gamer because we loved him because he has a moment that will be forever captured when they said no use games $3.99, and you see him jump up and cheer in that crowd. I would argue that is the biggest moment in E3 history. It is one of the biggest moments in gaming. When they did that, the industry completely flipped in that moment. It did. And PlayStation has not looked back since. Now, and again, I agree with you. They can't just rest on what they did in 2013 because obviously Microsoft is coming for the crown. But that was the moment, man. That was the moment that changed everything. Yeah. Absolutely.
Even though I was in the bathroom, it was the moment.
Yeah.
It was the moment. Now, you know what's the sad part of all that? We're not gonna see a moment like that. Not for this generation, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Because of the situation that we're in. Yeah, you'll be excited at home and you tweet about it, but it's not the same as being there, part of that crowd, screaming at everybody screaming at the same time. It's not the same, man. And you see all the execs and studio folks now recording videos from home, and some of them have some good mics, some of them don't. Then they'll release the video. I don't know, man. It's not gonna be the same.
No, it's not.
We're gonna be excited.
Yeah,
we're gonna be excited, but it's not the same.
No, just because of the delivery method. You're right about that. But that's just the world we live in at the moment.
At the moment. Hopefully next year, if most likely it's not going to be E3, might be like an individual.
Hey, event. Summer Game Fest, man.
Summer Game Fest, right? And we're there.
So look, I know we're going forever. And I do have to go soon. But you just brought that up. I'm so fascinated to hear your opinion on all this stuff as it relates to the future beyond this year with the Summer Game Fest and what IGN's doing, all these digital events. What do you think about them now? And what do you think that means like next year as far as E3 and all that stuff goes? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Okay. So before this whole COVID thing popped off, right? Jeff Keighley said, I will not attend E3 this year. He made that before the COVID thing. Because and the reason I'm saying that is because people are saying, oh, he's doing the Summer Game Fest as a response. No. He backed off beforehand. So I think Summer Game Fest would have happened regardless. And all this stuff that we're seeing right now, it's more proof to me of E3's irrelevance. Parris, you and I have talked about this on Twitter, right? Companies can do their own thing now. They don't need to go to E3 and pay millions of dollars for booth space and all that other stuff, right? So I think moving forward next year, when, I'm just going to say when things normalize, hopefully, I think we're going to see more continuation of that. E3, if it happens, I think, no, it's not if. They already announced E3 is going to happen, but I think it's going to be a hollow shell of what it used to be because all these companies this year, I guarantee you, they're going to see a lot of traffic. They're going to see a lot of numbers. They're going to be like, you know what? We don't need E3 to save ourselves some money. We're just going to have summer events adjacent happening around E3. And I expect this is my bold prediction right now. So if anybody wants to get on my back about it, I'm at RomUDeath on Twitter, right? I think Summer Game Fest is going to be a replacement for E3 eventually. I think E3 is eventually going to die out, and Summer Game Fest, Jeff Keighley's thing, that's going to be the thing that's going to take over eventually. And that's what we're going to be going to in LA in the future,
Do you hear me? This is me clapping because this is exactly what I think is happening. Jeff Keighley just pulled a power move.
Yes, he did.
Just people ain't seeing this. He pulled a power move. Like you said, he pulled out before all this nonsense happening, took I Am 8-Bit with him, admitted in a Reddit, I was going to do this Summer Game Fest next year anyways, saw an opportunity and jumped on it right now.
Yep.
Yeah, look, E3 may happen next year. Don't get me wrong. It's probably going to happen. I see the ESA doing something right now. But if you think Jeff Keighley's not going to do this as well next year, you're fooling yourself. And eventually, the ESA, I mean, look, in my opinion, I've been saying it for the longest anyway. E3 has completely lost its relevance as is. These companies are going to see these digital events and the money that they're saving and go, what the hell are we going to LA for? Yep. I'm not doing this again. PlayStation has been gone now 2 years anyways. Microsoft has been across the street for a couple years anyways. All it takes is Ubisoft and the rest of these guys to go, we'll just do our digital event. We'll save money. We're still getting the same amount of impressions and reach to our audience. Jeff Keighley's doing his thing. We'll coordinate through him, and then we'll culminate it all at Gamescom.
Yeah.
Done.
I think what's going on is, people lamenting the fact that E3 isn't happening. I think it's a lot of nostalgia because they remember, taking a week off of E3 and all that. I'm very sympathetic because I was in the same boat, right? But let's just be realistic here, right? If you're the regular consumer, right, there is no difference between you watching E3 streams and watching these streams at the same time at your home. There is no difference, right? There's a difference for us, obviously, when it comes to covering it. But if you're the fan at home, there's no difference to you whatsoever. So not having E3 is not really going to affect you. And as a matter of fact, it might be a better thing because of all these companies having their own things. You have even more content. So I think for the consumer, this is a great thing what I'm going to say right now is going to get people mad. It's a great thing that E3 is dying because now we have the replacements are potentially looking better,
Mention your Twitter again.
So
people can hit you.
that's at Romudeth, ROMUDETH. Hit me up.
There you go.
Somebody just paused this like 5 times with a notepad and wrote, R, and they are going to angry tweet you later.
I'm going to hit up this MF, man. I'm going to let them know what I think.
And here's one thing you guys totally forgot to mention. What happened today? Didn't Jeff Keighley got like... the
Hollywood innovator thing or something?
Yeah, the Hollywood reporter.
Influential person or something.
Yeah. Psst, dude, he is going to milk that. and plus the numbers from the Game Awards.
Yeah.
And they're going to get more companies to be involved with Summer Game Fest and the Game Awards. ESA in trouble.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you look at, I know we're just talking about Jeff Keighley now, but again, when you talk building stuff up, he's been building to this moment where this Summer Game Fest, Gamescom, and the Game Awards, all this stuff is going to interconnect into one.
Yep.
It's going to be one big him promoting gaming throughout the year with these various events and shows and everything. And these publishers are going to be on board because we're all going to watch it and participate in the whole thing. Again, look, COVID sucks that this happened, but all COVID has really done is forced us into the realization that digital events work. And when COVID goes away and there's a little more freedom to go around, imagine the production values that are going to be around these digital events next year. Why are you wasting your time going to LA? Well, look, selfishly, I love E3 because I get to hang out with all you guys and my friends and all that. But to 99.9% of the people out there, they ain't in LA. They're not sitting in some stinky, sweaty meeting room looking at these games. They're watching it at home anyways.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Yep. All right.
No, you're right.
So, I think we went a little bit over, but it's all good.
Yeah, we did.
It's all good.
It's crazy.
See, there you go. For the listeners, have fun. But I think this was a great conversation / I guess debate. I mean, I don't know. We're having fun with this. This is quarantine talk still, and we're still waiting for announcements coming from all these companies for the month of May, June, July, and who knows, August. And I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what Sony, Xbox, and hopefully Nintendo have to announce, man, for this year, man. So, Tony, anything else you want to mention before we wrap it up? Anything else?
Yeah, I'm just like, again, I'm still a little. Again, I've come to that realization. It's like, oh man, like the new gen is not going to be as like exciting. At least I launched like previous gens. I've come to accept that. Kind of stinks, but at the same time, I'm hopeful that when we start getting games that are just only for these systems, that we're going to see actual revolution, not in terms of graphics, but in terms of gameplay, because that's needed overall. Let's just be honest, this generation that we have right now, it was more of the same from last generation. But if we get a true revolution when it comes to gameplay, that'd be great. But when it comes to graphics, this is just a personal thing. I need to come to the acceptance that ain't going to happen the way you say. It's just going to be a gradual, slow thing as opposed to a big bombshell. But other than that, I'm looking forward to seeing what these consoles have to show. And June, I really, again, I want to be excited. I'm not trying to be a cynic here. I really do generally want to be excited. It's just I haven't seen too much to get me excited yet. But hopefully that'll change. Like we said, the same podcast, things could flip, drop of a hat. So hopefully that'll be the case.
Yeah. Yeah. So we also have in the future, we're planning to get more surprise guests here on the show. So stay tuned for that. It's coming. Make sure. But anyways, head over to gamertagradio.com. Listen to our past episodes. Also, you could, subscribe on any podcast app. Just search for Gamertag Radio. Follow us and also post a review. And if you would like to join us, be part of the conversation, have questions and comments, maybe you disagree with Tony or disagree with Parris, and you agree with me, it's all good. This is how you can contact us.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
And that's about it. Parris, anything else you want to say? We're going to wrap it up here.
Nah, man, just thank you for Tony for coming on, and I love how a Twitter conversation just turned into we've been on here an hour or something, right?
An hour
conversation,
and almost 90 minutes.
Oh my god!
Yo, we go in, man. By the way, this is what happens when me, Danny, and Parris get together in real life. These conversations just flow like that. Yeah. So it's dope that we got to experience that. And again, thank you so much for calling me and letting giving me the chance to actually speak this. Because again, we don't want to do this on Twitter. It's just too much. It's better to do it in this fashion. And not only does it give us the chance to just speak, as like industry guys and as friends, but it gives the fans content too to help them pass the time during all this. So it's a win-win all around, man. So thank you.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Definitely. So, Sony, mention your podcast, Twitch, Twitter,
right.
if people want to follow you and so on.
Yeah, so as I said, you can follow me on Twitter at Romudeth. That's ROMUDETH. And in my bio, you'll see links to all the places I write for. My primary gig is PC Mag, but I also write some stuff for Tom's Guide and Laptop Mag, and you'll see the link for that in my bio. And also, I am the host of The Throwdown Show. You could catch us live on Thursdays and Sundays at 10:30 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. Thursday shows are always us covering the news of that week, and Sunday shows are us answering fan questions. By the way, shout out to the fans. They never run out of questions for us. Never, ever run out of questions, man. So
that's good. That's
good. So yeah. And then, of course, if you're on Twitter, please hit me up. I will respond to you. If you're respectful, if you come on with some BS, I'm not responding to you. So come correct and I'll talk to you.
All right. Awesome. Well, Tony, thanks a lot. And hopefully we could join us soon. Once we get to see all these announcements. You know what? We're going to invite Tony after the Sony digital event.
All right.
I think that would be cool.
Good.
I would love to hear his thoughts about it, man. So, and hopefully we'll change his mind.
Right. Yeah. We'll see.
All right. Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. And remember, hit us up and stay tuned. We have more episodes coming up. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Gamertag Radio. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.